Sorry? Other. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. So my name is Sanjeewa Malalgoda. I'm the product manager for API Manager software product. So in this session, I'll discuss about Federated API Management and how we can use that for enterprise agility. So if I discuss what we are going to cover today, I'll start with the growth of API and requirement of API management. Then I will discuss about both centralized and decentralized API management. Then I'll discuss challenges associated with both of these models. Then I'll discuss how we can implement federated API management by utilizing advantages of both centralized and decentralized API management. So then we will see some implementation strategies as well. Then we will see finally advantages and disadvantages of federated API management as well, because that is not for everyone. So we will discuss about that as well. First, I will discuss about evaluation of API. I think you all are familiar with APIs, but just for the completeness, I will start. So if you look at definition of APIs, it goes to way back 1960s, where we introduced this API term. So then if you look at 1990s, APIs grow rapidly because of this .com era, and there are a lot of mobile device, centralized, distributed computing. So due to all these things, APIs, people use more and more APIs. So then somewhere around 2000s, like RESTful, SOAP, all these protocols came into picture. Then again, API usage grown over the time. So then 2010 is where what we call API management started actually. So most of the API management vendors, including WSO2, started their operation at that time. So then after some time, people announced digital product, and people converted APIs into revenue streams as well. So I think significant API management growth happened at that pace. So then if you look at last 5 years, API growth happened mainly due to few reasons: microservices architecture, as well as the usage of AI APIs. So then if you look at some of the factors which are driving growth of APIs, we can identify some of them, mainly digital transformation and automation, and also microservices. When we have like a large monolithic application and you break that into small multiple microservices, most of the time we need APIs to communicate between these microservices. So that again goes to rapid API growth. And AI and LLM APIs, and different protocols using APIs as revenue streams. So all these things attributed to rapid growth of APIs. So then when people started using APIs, obviously we need API management. And then when we implement API management solution, there are again multiple ways that we can do that. So one is centralized API management, another one is the decentralized API management. In next few slides, what I'm going to discuss is mainly two models, and when to use what, and advantages and disadvantages of each of these models. So this is API Days Helsinki 2019, and I was there, and my talk is about the future of API management is decentralized. So at that time, most organizations started experimenting about decentralized API management. So if you look at 2010 to 2020 timeframe, mainly most organizations stick to one API management solution. But at this time, people started exploring using multiple API management platforms, multiple API gateways to address different requirements. So this is what I talk about that session. So then after 6 years, today we discuss about Federated API Management, where we utilize both centralized and decentralized and have more governance and autonomy at the same time. So then I'll discuss about centralized API management first. So if we discuss about centralized API management, most of the time we will have a single control plane. So that's where we get the full control about this API platform. So then when it comes to security and policy management, most of the time there's a central place where we can apply these security policies and other enforcement. So that basically goes to central API management team. So then when it comes to traffic routing, again, most of the time, all these requests go to single gateway or different partitions of the same gateway implementation. So when it comes to infrastructure setup, again, this central API team got access to this infrastructure and complete control over the infrastructure. When it comes to standardization, it was quite easy because there's a central team for entire organization. So whatever the process they want to implement, they can implement without thinking about underlying business unit or how they use it, because they got central control. And usually when we implement this kind of pattern, there's approval requirements are there. There are approval requirements because multiple business unit now need to use this central API management team's resources and infrastructure. So often they need to create a ticket or meet them, ask them, get the permission of central API team. So this is how it works. So let's say if this larger box is an organization boundary, there are different business units within the organization. So all these organizations contact central API team, and central API team got access to API infrastructure. So that includes API gateways, portals, analytics, and all other stuff related to API management. So as you can see here, obviously, every business unit need to go through a centralized API team. So you can see that can be a bottleneck for some time, and sometimes it can slow down your innovation and also limit somewhat agility, and go-to-market time also can be impacted with this kind of approach. So then if we discuss about advantages and disadvantages, left side you see advantages. So all your API related assets and artifacts in the central place so that you can easily control and govern them. So that is the main advantage of this model. So then when it comes to security, central team got access and they can apply strict security, so that way you can have full control. And when it comes to compliance or modernization, monetization, that kind of things, it is again very easy because now you don't need to go to each different business unit and ask them to make necessary changes for compliance. You got access to infrastructure as a central API team. You just go ahead and do whatever changes you need. So that way you can achieve compliance as well. Then if we discuss about performance, troubleshooting, and security enforcement, all these things are again easy because central team got access to that. You just go ahead, do whatever change you need. So then if we discuss the disadvantages, it's obviously slow down onboarding new APIs or gateways because every time you need to go to that central team. So they need to look into that and do the approval. So it may take some time. So then on the other hand, it will limit your flexibility to make quick changes. As well as if we take gateways or portals, most of the time this central API team will govern and design when to use what. So possibly as a business unit, you may not be able to use whatever the gateway you need. So it is something provisioned by the central team and you just use it. You are a user, you are just a user of this central API platform. So that is again a disadvantage. So then single point of failure can happen because this central API team and their infrastructure, we can consider that as single point, and there can be single point of failures. So that is again disadvantage. And also when it comes to innovation, it can slow down up to, up to some level because strict processes associated with the central API team. So then we will discuss about decentralized API management, where we get more agility. Let's see that in detail. So in decentralized API management, most of the time you get independent control plane. So that means each of business unit will get their own control plane. So they have freedom to choose what API platform you want to use, what gateway you want to use. They get complete freedom to select that. So then team specific policies we can implement. So as team member, I can decide what security policy is suited for my business unit and what kind of governance policies require for my business unit. So that is not depend on the central team. You just make a decision and you implement that. So then when it comes to traffic routing, again, you get freedom to choose whatever the gateway you want. So for example, if there's a specific department where they want to use eventing APIs, they have freedom to use broker-based gateway. And at the same time, if you want to use WebSocket, then you can pick and choose WebSocket supported API gateway and use that for your business unit. So that kind of freedom you're getting. And also when it comes to infrastructure, you get complete control. So one team can use Azure, one team can use AWS. So likewise, you can use anything that you want. And it's obviously flexible because each team get more control over what they want. And also when it comes to deployment, design, all these things, those are somewhat quick and you can do it easily. So this is how it basically looks like. So it's not the exact representation of the decentralized API management, but in very high level, this is what it looks like. So each business unit get access to API infrastructure. API infrastructure means it can be gateways, portals, and control plane that they need. So then if you look at advantages and disadvantages, again, with this model, obviously high agility is there because each team got complete control over what they want. They can do whatever change you need. And when it comes to technology, you can choose a gateway that's suitable for your requirement. And also it make innovations faster. And when it comes to scalability, resiliency, it's again quite easy. And also it empowers teams because API teams in each business unit get full control, so they can do whatever they need. Obviously with this approach, there are some API security risks because different business unit may have different policies, different security practices. So some people, like one organization can have security policy where it mandate all your APIs need to be secured with some sort of like defined grained access control, something like scope. But on the other hand, other business unit may not aware about these things, so they may have like non-secured APIs. So likewise, there are inconsistencies there. And also when it comes to standardization, it's a bit hard to do because different business unit will have their own things and we don't have control. And on the other hand, duplicate efforts are there. So for example, let's say one organization unit or business unit may develop policy for API design, like API design best practices, how you name API resources, what kind of path you should use. So if they use that policy, that is mainly belong to that business unit. So there's no way for you to share that with other business unit. So when other business unit started seriously looking into this governance model, then they need to go ahead and implement that because there's no way to share that resource. So that is again problem. So then when it comes to visibility, it's again bound to business unit. So you see APIs available in your business unit, but most of the time you won't get access to other business unit infrastructure or portals. So that can be visibility issue as well. So then when we implement these things, like with the decentralized approach, each of the business unit will own infrastructure, gateways and everything. So that means we need people to manage this infrastructure. So that means each business unit may need to have like some sort of infra team, like API platform team within this business unit. So then when it comes to compliancy, in the previous approach I mentioned, we can just go ahead and implement that compliance in the central control plane. But with this approach, now you need to go to different business unit and implement this process within each business unit so that as an organization, you can get compliance. Okay, so next we can discuss about federated API management. where we can utilize both advantage of previously discussed models. And before that, if you have any questions, I mean, is it make sense? Like, are these like two models make sense for your organizations? What do you think? Any questions? Okay, so then we will go ahead with the Federated API Management. So Federated API Management is like mainly about having a hybrid model where we utilize both centralized and the decentralized approaches. So we mainly take like the centralized governance and decentralized execution. So that is the path we think how we should implement Federated API Management. And also it is about having a right balance between flexibility versus governance and security. So that way you can achieve both of these with the Federated API Management. So then when it comes to Federated API Management, I'll go to this slide. So this is basically decentralized model where we have each business unit their own API infrastructure. So how we transform this into federated model is like we apply centralized control across different API infrastructure. So each of these business unit will get access to their own API infrastructure. So that means gateways, API control plane. So they have complete freedom to manage their APIs, apply policies, and deploy their APIs, provision their gateways. So they get access to that. But there's this central control or governance and the security layer which can overlook your entire API infrastructure. So it can, I mean, with that you can see how many APIs being deployed, how many APIs adhering to best practices. So all this visibility is something you get. So that's how we recommend to implement Federated API Management. So now let's go and see how we can implement governance and control. So for this approach also we need central API team, and it's not central API team that we discussed early, where they control API creation, gateway provisioning, and all these things. So this central API team gets subset of tasks that we discussed before. So these people are mainly define policies, security standards, and the compliance and the governance related stuff only. So they don't go and create APIs and manage APIs. So they will just set up the framework and make sure things operate right way, and they will hand over rest of the process to each of these business unit. So as you can see here, now this central API team is size-wise it's smaller, and also they do fraction of the work that they used to do with the centralized API management. So then when it comes to API portal or catalog, most of the time we need to have a central or shared catalog so that different business unit can share their APIs and we can promote API reusability. And also when it comes to automation and guardrails, security policies, authentication, observability are enforced automatically. So that is something we need to apply in the top level so that each business unit, when they create APIs, these policies apply automatically. So then governance also need to apply across different business unit. So you can create APIs, but you adhere to these best practices, you adhere to these policies. So that's how we should do it. So then let's look at how we can execute with the flexibility. So mainly execution happens in decentralized fashion. So each business unit get freedom to deploy and manage their APIs. Now they don't need to go to central plane or the central API team. So they have complete freedom to design, deploy, and manage their APIs. But when they do that, automatically they will adhere to governance framework set up in the organization level. So they do that in the business unit level, but governance policies apply within the organization. So then when it comes to infrastructure, it's again, they can provision whatever gateways that they need, but these gateways possibly evaluated and established central API team before, and whenever you need, you can provision this and easily. So as a business unit, if you want to provision a set of gateways in cloud infrastructure, you don't need to go and ask from the central team. You can just execute some sort of pipeline and provide that detail so that gateways provision into infrastructure But when you try to develop API, deploy API, so all the best practices we enforce in the organization level apply automatically. So that is the process we should implement when it comes to infrastructure provisioning part. So then we can have flexible gateways. So each of team have flexibility to choose whatever the gateways that they need. Possibly central API team will evaluate and approve these things beforehand. And when you do deployment, you have flexibility to choose whatever the gateway you need, right? Because we cannot give full autonomy most of the time, because these gateways associate with some sort of subscription and like the business agreement and all. So due to that fact, it's always recommended to provision them beforehand. And whenever use, we take a copy of that and we start new instance, something like that. And also that way, we can have full autonomy as well as the agility for different business unit. We covered this part. Okay, so then let's have a look at on how we can implement Federated API Management. So I think most important thing is defining governance in organization level, because without proper governance, Federated API Management is just another version of decentralized API management. So for example, with the decentralized API management, you will have like whatever your policies, right? So if you do not have proper governance framework in the Federated API management, each business unit have freedom to create whatever they want. So we don't have any governance at organization level. So due to that fact, if you run it for some time without governance, what will happen is there can be number of APIs created according to different requirement, different standards. There can be multiple different levels. So let's say after 6 months time, if we started to implement governance, it's very hard to implement that, because now these teams went ahead and created some APIs. So let's say we have 4 business unit. Each of these business unit created like 10 APIs. There are 40 APIs. So out of this 40 API, let's say 20 APIs are not adhering to organization best practices. Then it's very hard to get them back to the state that we want to have. So that is very important thing. Define governance upfront before we enable that for your organization. So then enable API discovery. It's again promote API visibility and reusability. That is something we should do. And also allowing multiple gateways, self-service infrastructure. So that is, I discussed previously as well, related to provisioning gateways and all. And have proper security automation compliance, CI/CD pipelines, monitoring and access control. That's again very important. So this is something you need to consider when you implement Federated API Management for your organization. So if you look at the process-wise, you can always start with defining governance. Then you can go ahead and enable marketplace for the discovery, because that is what promote API discovery. So then you allow multiple gateways across different deployment or different environment. So then you automate compliance and monitoring, and possibly towards the later phase, you can implement self-service infrastructure and automation as well. So I think if you follow this order of operation, it would be ideal. I think self-service infrastructure is not something every organization want to do, but that is the ultimate level that we can go with this model. So then, if you look at components, we need to implement Federated API Management. Obviously, we need central control plane. So that is what we did with API Manager 4.5 version. We completely separated control plane, let you to plug any gateway that you want to do. So that control plane requirement is very important. So then decentralized data plane support, again need. So that is different business unit can manage APIs independently. They can choose whatever the gateway they need. So now with WSO2 API Manager, we have 3 different gateway types, universal gateway, Kubernetes gateway, as well as the immutable gateway. And also under federated gateways, we do support AWS gateway, Solaris gateway. And in the future, we hope to bring more and more gateways. So likewise, have that flexibility for the different data planes based on different requirement is again very important. So then API marketplace and discovery is a component that we need. Self-service infrastructure and automated compliance and security. So these are like different components that we want to implement Federated API Management. So every time when you try to evaluate API management solution for your organization to implement Federated API Management, just have a look at on that solution. and see whether these pieces are there and whether you can address these requirements with that product or solution. So then, if we consider federated API management, like it's not kind of a silver bullet. I mean, there can be obviously issues with that as well. And it is not for all the organization. I mean, there are big corporations, big organizations where they need federated API management, but that's not the use case for almost all the organization. I mean, there are like some small or medium organization still have very successful API strategy just with the centralized API management platform. So that is again requirement-based thing. So since federated API management is there, not every organization need to go ahead and adapt that and use it. So it is something you need to carefully analyze with your organization requirement and your technology strategy, and also your future roadmap. You have to consider all these things carefully and come to conclusion about federated API management requirement. So then advantages, obviously like we discussed, it gives a lot of balance of the governance and agility. So you have both at the same time. Then when it comes to API deployment management, it's faster. API visibility and promote reusability as well. And it support multi-cloud and hybrid strategies. So for example, as organization, if you are planning to use multi-clouds, or if you want to use Kubernetes infrastructure. So based on that requirement, we can easily facilitate all these use cases with federated API management. And also security and compliance you can apply in large scale level. So I think this problem is specifically come when organization get bigger and bigger, when there are multiple different business unit and they want to use different API management solutions. That is where this problem comes, and you can easily address that problem. So if you go back to 2010-15 time frame, most of the organization had just a one API management solution. I mean, when we speak to customers, they had just like one API solution. So now, if we take like last couple of years, when we discuss with our customers and partners, most of the time, they have more than one API management solution. Not about the small API solutions or small organizations, but if we consider larger organizations and corporations, most of the time they have more than one API management solution. And that is something we cannot control as well, because different business units have different requirements. So they need to use what is best for their use cases. So then things that we need to be aware when we implement federated API management, it can be somewhat complex to set up because this running strong governance and automation is something you should do from day one. So setting up can be quite complicated when we do it very first. And also it needs central platform team. So if you got used to have a fully decentralized way, then most of the time different business units get full control. So now if you adapt this model, you need to form a central API platform team and let them to govern certain things. So that is again something we need to think through. And also there can be potential inconsistencies if not managed well. This is very important. So like I mentioned earlier, if we do not have proper governance process, each business unit can go ahead and do whatever they want, and it will eventually become a mess, even though we have a central control plane. You just see it, but you can't do anything after some time. So then operation overhead can be slightly higher when it comes to this model. So especially if you start with the centralized API management and go ahead with the federated API management, sometimes you will see there's a operational overhead as well. And also similarly, same applies to fully decentralized as well, because now specialized skill sets are there within different teams. So now we need this central team, and that can sometimes be overhead as well. But if we consider long-term sustainability and overall governance compliance, I think that is something we should invest and go ahead and do that. Okay, so that is what I want to cover today. So I think in this session, what I want to highlight is give you a brief idea about two models and when to use what, advantages and disadvantages of these models, and then how you can implement federated API management. One key takeaway is federated API management is not for everyone. Some organizations may require it, some may not. Based on your future technology direction and your requirement, you should carefully analyze that and make that decision. So as WSO2, we always happy to help you. I mean, let's say if you have a requirement and if you are thinking about adapting federated API management, we can always have a discussion and we can advise when to use what. And we can of course help with our components, our central control plane and our three gateway types, and also our federated API gateway strategy. We can help you to navigate through this journey. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.